Hi, everybody. I am Nico Masucci, and I will be your instructor for this course. So I was just thinking to give you like a brief introduction to me. Also go over the syllabus. I'm not intending for this to be like super comprehensive with the syllabus. I mean, I just figured this first week we don't really have too much to do. Um, so it'd be nice to just put stuff on your radar, and then we're going to be able to meet every Tuesday. I'll have that hour from 7 to 8. We can also talk about if like that doesn't jive with people's schedules. So we'll have a lot more times to talk. I'll be giving like a good update every week on whatever the assignment coming up is too. So this is really just to get you guys acquainted, let you guys see me, hear me. I know I'm not a robot. So, but yeah, I mean, a little bit about me. I am still finishing up my PhD program. I just have my dissertation left. It's my opinion that I'm not taking long. I actually, did some stuff along the way. I got a certificate like in school counseling. So it's really an educational specialist certificate as far as from like the state's perspective. But I was able to do that through Penn West's postmaster's program. So I did get my degree in clinical mental health from here, as well as now the ability to be a school counselor through Penn West Health. So, I've taught practicum courses at Duquesne. That's kind of like your typical training that you go through in counselor education and supervision, doctoral program. And then I taught two practicum classes here at Penn West in the summer. So I do feel like I got some teaching under my belt. This is actually one of my first theory-based courses. I'm also teaching an intro section. Really excited to teach career. I do have some experience researching career. I know that for Dr. Eliason, I had actually written a chapter for textbook that he has published earlier editions. I think there was something going on with this edition that it might not get published just for like whatever reason with the publisher, but that really helped me, and it really taught me a lot about how to study any of our courses. Right, when you synthesize something, when you create something, it really helps you to memorize it and learn it deeply. So that's not to say that I know a ton about career, but just that like that was a really cool experience. And I encourage you to do any stuff like that if you can in the future, right? Like just create something in order to really learn it and kind of soak it in. Um, I do remember, I think on the NCE, like I was surprised. I don't think I missed a career counseling question. There was like 10 career questions, and I genuinely attribute it to Dr. Eliason, his course, and also making me do that assignment later down the line. So that was pretty cool experience. So I really like career, and I'm motivated, and I even do some research now pertaining to career. My dissertation is not on career itself. It's actually on school counseling supervision and doctoral students' experiences when they have a clinical mental health background supervising school counseling students. So I'm really into counselor identity development as a supervisor. And there's a lot of different reasons for that. Actually, really where I started out was really trying to help the school counseling supervisees to feel understood, because I felt like they were in a really hard place. There was a lot of research indicating that doctoral students could be a good group to study. So since there was a lot of research really pushing for that, indicating that right now, ended up really going that route with it. But yeah, that's a lot of my research interests. So we'll probably talk more about that. But for today, we can really just get into the syllabus for career. Um, Another thing I would like to mention before that, I also did get married on August 1st. So we just got back. You might even see us there in the background a little bit. Um, but yeah, I thought that was just another cool thing to mention. I'm sure with everybody else's life experiences and stuff, we'll, talk about those things over time. But yeah, so as far as career development, this is counseling 7020, section 403. This is me. You can email me, you can text me. Obviously, try to save a text for something that's a little bit more emergency. But the way I like to phrase it is, if you need me, like, don't feel weird. Obviously, if you're just messaging me something that makes sense to be messaging me, there's no reason why you should feel awkward about it. I want to be able to answer your question. I don't want you to have immense amounts of anxiety because you're like, what if I can't get in touch with them? Just message me if you need to message me. Um, And then for career, I actually think I meant to put Tuesday for the office hours here. So I'll have to rectify that, which is also why we're going through this now. So Tuesday, 7 to 9, obviously also by appointment via Zoom. Um, Later at the bottom here, we're also going to have that 7 to 8 within these office hours. I think 7 to 8 will probably meet like every week. It is totally optional. I'm going to repeat that. I'll make sure to put an announcement somewhere. It's basically just an opportunity for you guys to kind of meet and greet, ask questions for people that just want that interaction. I mean, I don't think there's a wrong or right way to do it. Sometimes people don't have to schedule. You don't have to feel like a bad person for not coming to that. It's just an opportunity. So as far as the course description in general, obviously this is a graduate course, trying to equate you guys with basic theories and constructs to really understand how to implement career development through the lifespan. So it's going to be like selected aspects related to vocational and occupational theory, career development, career choice, career decision making, assessment, strategies for advocating for diverse clients, other career related issues. There's really a wide range of different things that you cover in career counseling. I think that's cool. And I think it's also very relevant still to personal counseling, which is why I like our book, because I think it makes a lot of explicit connections to that on purpose. So I do like that last part there where it also kind of talks about the interrelationship between work, mental well-being, and other life roles. That's fundamentally why we're talking about it as well, trying to increase our wellness, our sense of well-being, more specifically, and how that's going to fit in with our different life roles and how we can incorporate work into that. I have 48 hours here. I try to give myself some grace. I will typically try to do like 24 if I can. I think that's the best practice if I can. But I will say on the weekends, there might be a little bit more lag there. So it might not be so much that I don't respond. I leave that there just in case, but I think I'll still try to get you on the weekend, but you might get a little bit more lag there. And like I said, this course is 100% online, except for, uh, you know what? That was actually 7 to 8 on Thursdays. I'm leaving these bloopers in there, guys. It is what it is. Let's just be transparent here. It was actually Thursdays. So that's what I wanted to put there. And then, yeah, so the course materials are required. That's one thing I'm going to say. One thing about my classes, especially right now, maybe different classes, it'll change, but I think the textbook is very important. I will say the one benefit, though, is like I'm not really going to ask you, like, require you to read a bunch of stuff other than the textbook. I might supplement some articles as I develop teaching this class. I imagine I will probably have other things, and maybe I'll even supplement a chapter with articles or in the future. But I think this also gives you guys a quality assurance, right? I think it's nice to maybe listen to what I have to say, but also to make sure that you're reading in the textbook, making sure your interpretation is the same as mine, right? Not that you have to agree with me, but I mean that you can confirm that what I'm saying is accurate, or and maybe you have something to add to that conversation. That's something that you could always tell me as well. Would be good feedback for me on how to maybe explain something. So yeah, the text is definitely required. These are just like some supplemental stuff. When you think of some of the learning objectives, once again, I'm not reading through every single one of these right now. I think everybody would just fall asleep. But as far as the first one, like current labor market information, relevant to opportunities for practice within the counseling profession, that's actually can be pretty important. I mean, if you've never went on the Bureau of Labor Statistics and looked at different occupational information, salary, what you need to do for it, and communicated with that with a client, that could be that intervention in and of itself, just providing information, could really influence someone's decision, right? Which ultimately influences their well-being. So might sound basic, but it definitely could have a lot of impact. Theories and models of career development, counseling and decision making, approaches for conceptualizing the interrelationships among and between work, mental well-being, relationships, and other life roles and factors, processes for identifying and using career, educational, occupational, and labor market information resources. So kind of just skimming here. Strategies for assessing abilities, interests, values, personality, and other factors that contribute to career development. That's a big one. And you guys are even going to be taking some inventories that are relevant to some of those things. So I think that'll probably be the last one that's actually a good one to land on. These are just like the different learning outcomes. So we're not going to really go through all of that. You guys can basically read that on your own time. And then we will kind of talk here about the grading in the course assignments. Now you can see the grading as it is, right? Just based on the percentages. Everything's going to go off of points. So, I mean, there really shouldn't be anything out of the ordinary there. That should all just be standardized. So you will have different participation activities, right? You're going to have about 10 discussion boards. Um, you will have career counseling and assessment simulations. I'm going to really get into those more. Basically, yeah, we're going to get into that a little bit more. I'll break that down. There's just a lot more that I want to explain there. As far as the career interviews of a student partner, career counseling, you guys are going to interview each other. So that'll be one assignment where you guys are actually doing like a mock career counseling. You'll have a career counseling reflection paper, right? Pretty straightforward. You're going to talk about your professional career developmental history. And then we will have a midterm and a final exam. Now, I'm going to um, really try to make the midterm not scary. I'm going to try to make sure that you guys have ample practice. I am not trying to trick you with it. I will probably give a practice exam. I'm, my main point is really just to try to get you guys to remember some of these theorists. And I think that's going to also help you on the NCE, if you guys are familiar with that, the test that you'll eventually take to get licensure. A lot of times people take at the end of the program and sometimes even beforehand, depending on how much you got under your belt at that time. So yeah, I mean, this is going to be pretty straightforward, but don't worry. Like my goal is not to, I feel like from the students' perspective, you guys are like, well, there's going to be a lot of information in this class. Some of it's, some of it might be really exciting, but maybe some of it's boring to you, and you're like, oh my god, how am I going to do that? I think we're going to try to make it clear, like the main points that you should know. I don't think it's going to be super hidden. You will still have to do work because you'll have to do the practice exams and stuff like that, but it should be fine. So yeah, I'm not really going to go through the entire breakdown of this. Um, the main thing that I want to go through for you guys right here is that I tried to set this up so that Wednesdays will be when your first discussion posts are due. Friday is when your response to peers are due. And then Sundays is when any assignments will be due. So in my mind, that was kind of helpful because if you have an assignment, it's not really due until the end of the week. That would theoretically give you like a whole week to get it done. Even if some of that had to occur alongside a discussion post, it's going to be on the relevant chapter typically. So that's going to be helpful. And then the final, as of right now, is going to be due like around 12/11, but I'm still figuring out if that's actually the right date. I got to kind of confirm that one. So yeah, as far as this week, you really don't have too much. It's going to be next week that we are going to have two chapters, and I broke these up differently than some other professors have. Everybody just has their own way. There's no right or wrong way. I felt like putting these two particular chapters was important because the models are a lot, and I would rather put the theories with the historical development because I feel like that's a little bit lighter. Um, I will usually be a week ahead. I have only filmed the chapter one. So I'm going to put up chapter two. So I will technically still be on time because really I don't need to have that out until the next week. But I will try to get a week ahead soon for you guys. There will be the chapter one out ahead of time. So you could theoretically look into that for the next week if you kind of wanted to get into that. So I will be okay also with my discussion boards being out like a week early, and I'll put some of this stuff in announcements. So we're going to discuss this if it's not clear. Like we'll get all that under wraps as we begin this course. All you need for this week is really the introduction anyway. So if you just do that and check in with me, make sure you know what you need next week, you're going to be good. There's also no assignment due for next week. So basically, you're going to be fine. Yeah, I think the biggest thing to talk about with attendance is right. I mean, you really should be logging on regularly. Um, if you don't actively log on or participate, you could have your grade lower by half a grade. It could be asked to repeat the course if it was particularly bad. Obviously, there would be conversations way before that ever happens, right? You're not just going to like automatically, be in trouble. We're going to definitely have a conversation. Um, but I mean, if you think about it, like you're logging on early in the week, probably to check the material if you can. You really should, even if you don't, because you should double check that you know what the assignment is and that you don't get overwhelmed. Wednesday, you're responding or you're making your initial post. Friday, you're responding to peers, and Sunday, you might have an assignment. So, like, I'd say at least 3 or 4 times, and that's if not more than just double check something. Or, if somebody responded to your post, you should definitely take a look at it and read what they said, at the very least, if not even responding to them, although that's not a requirement. And then, yeah, I do recommend that you read before class. I mean, once again, that's going to end up being a personal choice. Some people like to hear from the professor first. I think if you read beforehand, it'll just make it easier to kind of assimilate what I'm saying and put it in context. Um, Class participation, I think the biggest thing, right, is just commenting on your peers appropriately, really putting thought into it. Like I said, the asynchronous part is fine. You don't have to come to the synchronous meetings. That is not included in that. It's really just what you put in that work that is visible to the other students, and of course your own papers and stuff for that matter, and your exams and whatnot. If I haven't already said this, like late work, I would say 5% for each day it's late, but I am pretty chill when it comes to if you really need to push something back, that's fine as long as you let me know. I think the biggest thing is communication. I really want to strengthen that skill, like even for your future job and stuff like that. I mean, if you have something difficult you don't want to ask somebody, I want you to go ahead and ask it. Um, and if there's some reason I really don't think that you should have some type of extension, we'll have a discussion. Um, so yeah, just reach out though. I'm usually pretty good about that as long as it's not happening all the time. Guys, changes in the course syllabus. I mean, this should be ready to go, but as you see, every now and then there's a change or something I'm not 100% sure of. It is the first time I'm teaching this at the end of the day, so I mean, there could definitely be a change in the syllabus. So just keep that in mind. And then one thing, I want you guys to keep in mind here is that we do have um, basically an obligation to report, right? If you guys are familiar with mandated reporting, it says faculty members are obligated to report sexual violence or any other abuse of a student who was or is a child when the abuse allegedly occurred to the person designated in the university protection of minors policy. And, once again, I also have some of the individuals here who you can contact if you're aware of any kind of sexual violence, whether that be minors or it be, even peers or something like that. So please reach out if you do know somebody's experiencing that. And please be mindful of the fact that I would also need to report those things. And then, yeah, if there's anything related to, disability or accommodations that anybody needs, please let me know immediately. I have no problem with that. I will meet, whatever accommodations that are set out and that you guys are supposed to have met. Just let me know. No problem. I mean, and if you have any concerns, I mean, even come talk to me, even if you're not sure, just so that we can reach out and get that taken care of as soon as possible. I mean, there's no reason to wait and struggle if you need some support. So, just let me know. I mean, guys, academic integrity, I mean, it should really be your own work. Obviously, it could there's a lot of different things that can happen, the different sanctions that you can face if you are cheating, if you are plagiarizing. You certainly should not be using ChatGPT. You shouldn't need ChatGPT. I mean, there's nothing really that complicated that you're not going to be able to get from the book and the YouTube video, and that give you enough understanding to write something about it, right? So I don't think anything's going to be too crazy within that. So we will go over all that as far as like discussion posts and it's specifically like how they're going to run and everything. And then, yeah, I already said basically about attendance. I mean, the biggest thing here is just once again, if there's any like medical reason that you need to be out for an extended period of time, please come talk to me. Let me know. It would definitely be inappropriate to be gone for like a week with nothing submitted and no answer why. And at first I would say like automatically it probably would just go to a zero. And then of course, I would reach out too, if I seen that. But if there was still no response, it would probably be a zero. And then if you came back and didn't have a medical excuse, um that wouldn't really be appropriate. So, try to just reach out as soon as possible. Not to fear monger you there. So yeah, we're gonna talk. I think the biggest thing maybe that we'll talk here is um, okay, so I do see an error here. I do want to change this to Wednesday, but the word number counts that I have there are correct. So your initial responses are going to be due by Wednesday. Those will be about 150 to 200 words. Replies 750 to 100. And I'll put replies are due on Fridays. And then, yeah, other than that, it's pretty straightforward. Um, So the career assessments, this is why I kind of didn't explain it in the beginning there because there's a little bit more to it. But we're going to also do assessments throughout this course, right? You guys are actually going to do assessments from like the Career Counseling Center. And those are going to be like, could it be a career genogram, career lifeline, self-directed search, strong interest inventory, value sort ranking, Myers-Briggs type indicator, and a life story. So you guys are going to do uh, these different assessments, and that's also going to feed into the career counseling sessions with your peers. So once again, I'm going to get really way more into this when we start the course. I will break this down, but you're going to interview another student. You're going to explore like the background abilities, interests, goals, all that type of stuff. Um, and then you guys are going to counsel each other based on that. And then in the third session, right, you're going to really start to do a little bit of planning, like what you're going to do with that information. So, basically, if I didn't say that right, because I feel like I combined these two a little bit. This first one is going to be just like maybe almost that initial interview where you're talking with the person, kind of seeing where they're at, like what's their major problem. Then they do their assessments and everything. You come back with that information. You're processing that with them. And then the final thing is basically like the future planning, right? So doing the assessments and stuff is its own assignment because that's kind of also for your personal knowledge and you'll use that in your final paper and reflection. But you're also going to be giving that information to your peer. So when they interview you, they kind of know some information to go off of. And then, yeah, your video reflection paper, you're going to write a reflective paper detailing your experience with career counseling. So you'll talk about your client, your pre-counseling process, how your session went for session 1, 2, and 3. And that'll just kind of help you process that experience, right? And I think that's pretty cool because I remember when I did this in my course, it really felt like you did career counseling. Like you felt like, okay, all these theories came at me, all these different ideas, all these different inventories. But like if I had to sit in front of a client, I could have them take a couple of tests and like we could have a meaningful conversation about it. So I'm hoping that you guys have that same experience when we do this. Um, and then yeah, for your final kind of personal career developmental history, each student will have completed several career assessment inventories. Through different means. The results of those assessments will be combined with occupational information to create a professional overview that connects your assessment outcomes. Let me change this here with your personal and career goals. So you'll use assessments that you completed for earlier assignments. I don't know if this is still going to be the focus too. I'm going to have to double check on that. But yeah, basically it's going to tie everything together. You'll talk about yourself, your career assessments, career planning, and future goals. And I'm going to get up. I'm not going to go through all this right now. We'll get a little bit more specific about what we need in this paper. This isn't until the end of the course, so some of this might even change depending on the different kind of assessments we use. But yeah, I think that's basically going to be it. So yeah, just be on the lookout. We will meet on Thursdays. I'll clarify that in the announcements and stuff since I had that wrong on the syllabus. But yeah, just reach out if you have any questions. This first week is going to be chill. You're going to have more than enough time. Even if you had to start from next week to get prepared for the second week, you would be fine. So just let me know if you need anything.